The United States government tried to obtain personal, private, confidential patient information from a medical provider. Federal prosecutors sought this information in pursuit of an investigation for offenses that they knew that medical provider could not have committed. And a federal judge found that federal prosecutors did all of this for transparently, nakedly political reasons. So why isn't this a national scandal? Because the targets of the Trump administration's investigation is a medical provider that also provides services for transgender children. I'm Adam Klasfeld. You're watching All Rise News. Here on Legal AF, and they're part of the Midas Touch Network, take a moment to hit subscribe. I know that the healthcare of transgender children has been turned by many politicians into one of the hottest political issues in the United States, and people have passionately held views about the rights and well-being of transgender individuals, the healthcare and safety of transgender children, and informed consent involving minors. And whatever your opinion on this is, I want to step aside to look at the big picture. Do we agree that it is wrong for the federal government to invent manufactured reasons to open an investigation to harass a medical provider over offenses that they knew that medical provider could not have committed in order to advance their political agenda? Because that's exactly what U.S. District Judge Jamal Whitehead found had happened in the case of QueerDoc. QueerDoc is a medical organization that did not want their name in the news before this ruling went public. They knew that they were the target of a Justice Department subpoena for information involving their patients. They wanted to protect themselves and their patients. And a federal judge was very empathetic toward those reasons. But the judge said that it was very important that the public know about it, that it makes the fact that they were being harassed makes it more important, more urgent for this information to become public. I'm going to read from his ruling. He wrote, quote, that the government's, quote, conduct appears calculated to intimidate rather than to investigate. Yet this troubling behavior by DOJ actually strengthens the case for transparency, not secrecy. The public has a right, indeed a pressing need, to observe proceedings alleging executive agencies have abused their investigative powers to advance political agendas. Now, Judge Whitehead noted that the Trump administration's motives here aren't a mystery. Trump issued an executive order announcing before the world, very early on in his tenure, that he was going to go after organizations like QueerDoc. Quote, "This is not speculation about hidden motives. It is the administration's explicit agenda. The government seeks the intended effect of its executive orders and these subpoenas to, quote, downsize or eliminate, end quote, all gender-affirming care," end quote. And here's a key part of the ruling. As I said a couple of times before, QueerDoc couldn't possibly have committed the offenses that federal prosecutors claimed to have been investigating. Why? Well, Judge Whitehead explains here, quote, "The mismatch between the DOJ's stated investigation and QueerDoc's actual operations further reveals the subpoena's pretextual nature. The Attorney General directed investigations of manufacturers and distributors engaged in misbranding and providers submitting false insurance claims. QueerDoc is neither. It provides medications, but does not manufacture or distribute them. It provides patients with super bills, but it does not submit insurance claims." So the explicitly stated reasons for the subpoena were for offenses that they knew QueerDoc could not have committed. That was the basis of the subpoenas. And just how invasive were these subpoenas? The ruling reveals that prosecutors demanded, quote, "a staggering amount of personal health data related to QueerDoc's patients, including their names, dates of birth, social security number, address, medical diagnoses, and patient intake documents, end quote. All of that information, that private information protected by federal law in service of a bogus, politically motivated investigation. This investigation happened to target transgender children, a vulnerable population. And the Trump Justice Department might have gambled that people have such strongly held opinions about it that that would be all that they would have heard in judging the merits or lack of merits of this investigation, that they would focus on other issues. And maybe they found that this was a population that was marginalized, powerless, that would not have been able to stop it, and that politicians wouldn't have staked their political capital in defending this population before the midterm elections or before the local elections happening across the country. Maybe they thought that because this was a target, they could have gotten away with it. But I want to point to the story that revealed this all. The New York Times broke this story, and I think they got the headline exactly right. The headline was, quote, "Judge rebukes Justice Department over efforts to obtain confidential patient details," end quote. And the reason I think they got that headline exactly right is that this isn't primarily a story about transgender people, transgender children, transgender healthcare. In this case, transgender children and the medical providers of transgender children, transgender families were the canary in the coal mine. But this case is far broader than that. If the government can get away with this, just think about what the Trump administration can do. Just think about the Trump administration's political agenda in the medical care field. Will there be invasive subpoenas of recipients of vaccines on dubious grounds? What about pregnant women who take Tylenol, which by all mainstream medical research is completely safe, and which we've discussed in other videos here on All Rise News, breaking down this issue based on evidence that appeared in the court record showing the safety of Tylenol and pregnant women. If the Justice Department, the Trump Justice Department, could have gotten away with this politically motivated investigation because the target happened to be transgender children, who could have been next? If you want to find more of my reporting, visit www.allrisenews.com. That's www.allrisenews.com. I'm a fully independent journalist, and if you want to support my work and get my reporting right to your inbox, you can become a subscriber. And to watch more videos like these, don't forget to subscribe to Legal AF, and I'll see you on this channel next time.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.